Have you ever read any of Jane Austen's stuff?
No.
It's widely misunderstood. I'm quite a big fan of Jane Austen.
Is it good?
It's great stuff, yeah. But it's a lot of people think it's really romantic, but actually the books are really, really tragic. She never got married, right? She stuck to her guns, but all the characters in the books, it's all about people giving in to the horrible society in which they live. They're sort of like Russian tragedies, really. They're really, really brutal. So Pride and Prejudice, right? So you know the character Mr. Darcy.
Yep.
So Mr. Darcy is just a complete piece of shit, right? That's the whole point of the character. So there's Mr. Darcy and there's Mr. Bingley, right? And they're just like going around the country fucking everyone, right? It's during the Napoleonic Wars. So all of the young men, like all the brothers and fathers of the lower classes have been sent off to war. So there's no one to stop them.
Right.
That's what happens during war. And particularly at that time, during Regency, if you're a woman and you get fucked, then you're basically a whore and you can't get married and your life is ruined. If you're a man, it's just a bit of, silly, young person.
This is a good description. Carry on. I'm getting it more about the whole era.
Yeah, that's Regency. So Bingley and Darcy, they come to this town. Basically, they want to get married to some poor bitches who can't say anything to them.
Right.
So once they're married to them, they can still keep on in their sort of womanizing ways.
Okay.
Because their wives don't have any money and so dependent on them.
Yeah.
So the main character, Elizabeth Bennet, she's got loads of sisters. And I can't remember exactly why, but basically they're all right for money, but they're increasingly not going to be. They don't have any income or something. And they're all daughters. So they all need to get married off to some rich people, basically, so that they can continue living their middle class to upper middle class lives, right? Elizabeth Bennet, the main character, she doesn't want to do that. She's very cynical at the beginning, but sort of cynical, but also kind of fun-loving, like she's poking fun at the society in which she lives. But by the end of the book, she marries Mr. Darcy, this horrible guy, for money, basically. And it's so sad and dark that she even sort of convinces herself that she loves him.
So he's really quite unpleasant. And there's no love really between.
No, she hates him
Bennett
throughout the book. She hates him, and there's the closest thing to a good character in the book is a guy called Mr. Wickham, who grew up with Darcy. And early on in the book, Wickham tells Elizabeth Bennet, the main character, about how when they grew up together, he was sort of like an orphan, but Darcy's dad, who was a nice guy, kind of took him on as like a second son and treated him like just as well as he did his own son. And when he died, they were supposed to inherit 50-50, but Darcy screwed him out of it.
Oh.
So he's ended up having to be a soldier, so he's off fighting in the wars like a fucking douche, while Darcy's going around all the fancy manor houses fucking everyone. Anyway, he's briefly away from the war just in time to tell Elizabeth Bennet all about this. Throughout the book, basically, Elizabeth Bennet hears shit about Darcy from everybody. And then Darcy would come back every so often with very, very unbelievable explanations for why actually it's the other way around and he's the good guy. And she doesn't believe him until right at the end. Then she suddenly does believe him. And then they're suddenly magically in love and live happily ever after. And you're supposed to think, oh, that's a nice story. It's clearly a horrible, horrible story. So there's another bit, right, where Elizabeth Bennet's sister goes away to Brighton, I think. And what we're told is that she runs away with this Mr. Wickham character. Again, Mr. Wickham getting blamed for everything. And then basically it's implied that they fuck and then they get married. They're sort of it's going to be a scandal for the family unless they get married, so they sort of force them to get married. And then later it's revealed that Darcy was at the wedding.
I don't understand. Why does that matter?
Well, the top level of implication is that Darcy went to help out the family, right, to make sure there wasn't a scandal, and paid off Wickham to marry her. Because Wickham doesn't have any money. So he's going to pay Wickham some kind of allowance. Said, please marry her so that the family isn't scandalized by you having sex out of wedlock. Right? But the deeper implication is Darcy fucked her. Darcy fucked her and then didn't realize that she was related to Elizabeth Bennet. And then realizing that that finally his ways would catch up with him if he married Elizabeth. He was like, Wickham, you pretend you fucked her and you marry her and I'll give you some money. And Wickham being
really
such a nice guy. He's such a nice guy that he knew that this woman's life would be ruined if he didn't marry her. So he does.
That's Brilliant. So what are the other ones? Are they as sort of as I guess they are as good.
They're all the same story.
There's
a main character, and they're full of life and wit and humor and cynicism at the beginning of the book, and by the end of the book, they've convinced themselves to fall in love with the richest person in the village in order to secure their future. So basically, throughout Pride and Prejudice, all of her sisters and friends are getting married off to people to secure their futures, and she suddenly comes to the realization that she's going to have to do the same. And so she convinces herself that Mr. Darcy's a nice guy. It's very, very, very sad.